I'd rather have a $10 million brand that has 2 channels than a $20 million brand with 1 channel. I'm telling you, like that's when you get into like the 15 to $30 million space and you're like 90% 1 channel, that I've never seen that play out well long term. That's a scary place to be.
Honest E-commerce is a weekly podcast where we interview direct-to-consumer brand founders and leaders to find out what it takes to start, grow, and scale an online business today. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest E-commerce. Today, I'm welcoming to the show an amazingly smart gentleman, the CEO and CCO of Raindrop, Jacques Spitzer. Welcome to the show.
Oh, baby. Here we go. I hope to bring all of the energy and all of the insight to anyone who's taken the time to listen to us here today.
Absolutely. Now, just quickly at the top, what is the type of work that you and your amazing team over at Raindrop is doing for brands in the space?
So I think the best way to tell a very quick snapshot of where we're at is, Bain & Company comes out with a list of the most insurgent brands every single year. And there's roughly 50, 60 brands on that list. And last year, we worked with about 15 of them. So we work with a ton of brands who are trying to make creative that's going to break out and break through, who are looking to tell their story in a way that can help them punch harder. And, some of those brands, like we did the largest launch in Procter Gamble history with Spruce. It's a new weed and grass killer we launched about 15 months ago. They're doing extremely well. We worked with Native for years and years to grow them within that Procter Gamble ecosystem. And then we've also worked with startup and smaller brands to make them very large. We're most known for Dr. Squatch and Grüns in terms of the impacts that we've had on their growth journeys. And so we primarily focus on making creative that creates a story market fit, because you got that product market fit, but you got to have a story market fit that gets people buying faster than ever. And that's what we've been working on the last 15 years. So it's been a journey.
Absolutely. And I just want to ask, when you mean creative, are you talking about, videos and images for Facebook? Are you talking about YouTube videos? Are you talking about long form, short term? Are you talking about campaign landing pages? What does creative entail?
Yeah, a great question. So I would say the best way to think about it is when we talk to any brand, we're typically trying to solve what channels can have the biggest impact to either grow your current audiences or find new audiences. And we're always thinking about it as a well-rounded campaign. And so I think uniquely, we create everything from Super Bowl, level ads all the way through to the thread of creating our own UGC pieces or working with third parties to create UGC, static advertising. So really the entire umbrella. I think what we know intuitively, and I think a lot of people are catching up to, is that you used to be able to just make a TV ad and make a radio ad, and then the internet fractured everything. Social media fractured it more. Short form video fractured it even more. All of the streaming services even more. And so now we're how do you get one big idea that you can get to work in a couple channels? So those channels tend to be, you name them. They can be television, still. They can be YouTube. We've seen a ton of success, more success than any other agency on YouTube, because it's an underutilized and misunderstood channel. And then of course, Meta and your TikToks and others. And so, that's where we see people finding the biggest scale, is when they can get a story that really resonates and connects, that they can keep spending behind and predictably drive more and more revenue back. And so everyone's trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I really want to highlight there is you said a singular story, a singular thing. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a really bad habit of fail fast and pivot, but sometimes it's like you just got to keep trying the same thing a few different ways. And what we would always see with brands would be like, they will find initial success through a certain channel, and then they'll want to branch out to a completely separate channel. And I'm like, you haven't even really
scratch the surface,
seen this thing to its limit here. You're barely trying. And it's like, this is working. You've got all these leading indicators that this is working. Why are you going to go build something from scratch?
Yeah. Same thing happens with different SKUs and solutions within brands, right? We see that a lot as well. I mean, that happens all the time. And look, the bottom line is like everyone's trying to find the same thing. And I know this is a more e-commerce focused podcast. And so I really want to speak to people in the e-com space, because I always think about it like almost if you can't see this clip, I think about it. I'm turning a dial like when you click in, 1, 2, 3. I remember my gym locker growing up, and then pulling down on that lock. And I feel like a lot of times what we're trying to dial in is people are like, okay, well, I need to have a product that people want and need. All right. So we got to have that. And then it's like, great. But then I also need to have a way of capturing that demand. Like I need a offer that makes sense. And so you change your PDPs, you change your offers, you change the way that looks. And so you're trying to dial that in. And then on top of that, you have the creative and the channels. And so it's like all of these are different knobs that you can turn along the way. And so it's always hard. One of the things to always try to figure out is, based on the information I'm getting back, when am I getting into a place of diminishing marginal returns by tweaking one of these levers, or when is it time to maybe blow up the whole lever and start over? Or is it time to look to a different pasture? And so every brand's a little different, but you do see there are certain indicators that says, hey, it's time. Like, in fact, one of the biggest things I've seen actually is brands who go too long on the channel that works, and it's almost like skipping leg day, where they look jacked, but then they're like, I'm so beholden to one channel that if that one channel has a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, my whole business is in jeopardy. And so every single brand that we have grown by hundreds of millions of dollars always figures out two channels. You have to. It's like, to me, it is, I'd rather have a $10 million brand that has two channels than a $20 million brand with one channel. I'm telling you, like that's when you get into like the 15 to $30 million space, and you're like 90% one channel. That I've never seen that play out well long term. That's a scary place to be.
Absolutely. And it's, I would say the same thing. And it's funny having like the idea of like, skipping leg day and them all being focused on one thing. It's where they are really good at acquiring customers, which are super expensive to get. And it's like, you're just missing out on like the remarketing, the retargeting, the retention, which is a cheaper customer. Right. And so like when you do put all your focus into one area, you kind of can leave some easy money on the table too.
Yeah. It's very true. I mean, over and over again, I think brands are just like people. I think about when I say just like people, as let's say you're running a brand, maybe you're a founder listening to this. It's like you have so many plates you're trying to spin, and you have to spin, and something's always grabbing and moving your attention. And it's like the reality is that as someone that's trying to build an e-commerce brand, you can't just do one thing. Like you can't just do acquisition and not do retention. You can't just do retention and not do acquisition. It's like it all has to be attended to and work. And the one thing that I see over and over again is trying to figure out how to get those combinations happening in as many channels as possible. It just helps to weather the ups and downs of how things can perform, because it's a scary place to be when your dominant channel is starting to slip and you just you don't know what to do. I hate getting that phone call after someone's already reached that point. It's not a fun conversation because it's like, okay, it's time to pivot. To your point, that's not coming from a place of momentum.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of Raindrop's claims to fame here, the Dr. Squatch partnership as a client. I don't know how you guys like to refer to stuff, but you worked with so long, I would say partners at this point. Yeah. How did that relationship start? What were, the three things you did, and, let people know like what happened if they haven't heard the story, they haven't seen the case study online.
Sure. So, when we first started working with Dr. Squatch, they were about almost 6 years into the business. They were doing just around $3 million a year in sales. And at the time, the big audacious goal was to get it to $10 million. And we did a lot of strategic work up front that ended up, once we took the big swing to start putting out bigger pieces, which I'll go through, really ended up being the thing that made all the difference and connected. One of the things that we've done over and over again is we had this belief, even a decade ago, that people don't buy why you sell something as a brand or even as a founder. They buy their own why. People have either something, who they believe they are today or who they're trying to become. And so when we first started working with Dr. Squatch, it was like their founder, Jack, was so passionate about what all natural soap can do. I mean, it can literally heal your skin. A lot of people are using products that are, he has, I believe, psoriasis or something along those lines. And he's like, these products out there are literally just chemicals and they're ruining your skin, all the things. Right. And, and so I'll never forget where I was. I was sitting there, we're in our conference room, and I'm just thinking, you can buy a 30 pack of soap from Costco for $13, $14. We're selling $9 bars of soap to men through the internet. If we're selling soap, like, we're done. And I wish I could have articulated this well. I think some of these things are a little bit hindsight, but I realized that when we stopped thinking about it from this soap is worth it to you're worth it, that shift, instead of like convincing people that the soap is worth it in their life, that no, like, you're worth better soap, you're worth a better product. That shifted everything. And so when we started making this edutational comment, we call it education or edutainment because it's educating, but it's not in like a shamey way. It's fun, it's engaging. And we started storytelling. All of a sudden, people were like, ooh, yes, I want to try that. I'm in. And, that brand started growing by tens of millions of dollars, eventually by hundreds of millions of dollars as we continued to expand into new product lines. We helped them launch, it's like toothpaste and hair care and beard oil and lotion, and deodorant was a really big breakthrough. And, we ended up doing a Super Bowl commercial with them. And I think the Star Wars launch was another massive moment in their product history. It opened them up to a female audience that could buy it and gift it to men in their life at scale. And so I think one of the big confusion points that people have, and you and I chatted offline about this, is that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have Dr. Squatch money, so I can't succeed doing blank. Or I don't have fill in the blank, Grüns money, whatever. And it's like, well, no, they created content that scalably sold in real time so they could continue to spend more money behind the advertising and bring in more customers, scalably, if either profitably or as many might know on like consumables, we're like, okay, at month 3 or month 6, we need to be profitable. It might not be right away. And that has to do with how brands are built and structured. But finding that big idea that connects and then being able to turn it up through multiple channels, that's how they went. And they were one of the first to really pioneer YouTube at scale. I mean, they did billions of views behind these ads. And then they also continued to lean into Meta. They were very early and first to TikTok and leaning in there, reaching a even younger demographic of, young men. And so they ended up selling for $1.5 billion to Unilever. And it was, we were with them for, 8 or 9 years of that journey. And it's just a life-changing journey to see what's possible, with a big creative idea that can break through.
Hey, everybody, just a quick reminder. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't. We're releasing interviews like this every week, so don't miss out. Now back to the interview. We did chat before this and when we first met, kind of around the concept of it does take an investment to build a brand of that scale, but then you kind of challenged me. You're like, well, it doesn't need to be all at once, right? So I do want to talk a bit about that, but we can't overlook the most important part, which, I would love to get your take on it, is you have to have a product. You have to have a good product. The best advertising in the world can't fix a bad product, is probably a hill I'll die on.
It's interesting because here's what I'd say. There are a lot of great products that just never break through or see the light of day. I mean, what I fundamentally would ask you, what is the difference between a brand like Dr. Squatch was doing $3 million a year in sales, 6 years into the business, and all of a sudden, a couple of years later, they're doing $200-300 million. Same product, right? And so it's yes, the product had to be good, if not great. But honestly, I think the bigger issue out there, I really don't think the best product wins. I hate to say that, but I'm everyone would be drinking. They wouldn't be drinking Coca-Cola. They'd be drinking something else. Coca-Cola is a bad example, but
yeah. Well, I didn't say the best product. I just said it can't be a bad product.
It can't be a bad product. No, it can't be a bad product. But it's I would say that having a product that that people actually want and need,
it lives up to the expectations. That's what it needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question back.
Okay.
Because we meet a lot of different brands, and it's amazing to me to see how many of them are succeeding in their own way, in their own lane. And it's actually something that I've had to question myself, because I'm Temu would not have existed if everyone wanted quality products. I'm just saying, I got 3 things from Temu, and all of them were so bad. It was just why did I do this? And so I'm do you believe that what percentage of people do you think that are out there in business have products good enough to win, or how many of them are their product's getting in the way, or how much of it's no, they have the right product, but something else is off in the equation?
It's usually limiting beliefs from the founder or leadership team. I can't say too much, but there's a conversation I had this week, and I'm 1, raise your prices. 2, they have such a blue sky opportunity, but they have limiting beliefs just based upon the niche that they're in, and just historical agreements they believe they've made to their customer. And it's your customer doesn't know anything that you're telling me right now.
Oh my
gosh.
It's yes.
Their product is the best in the market for what they do too, which is wild, right? So it's you guys could easily 10x, but they don't want to. Yeah. Or I'm diving. I'm look, guys, you should do X, you should do Y, you should do Z. We don't, we can crawl, walk, run, but there is a lot of opportunity here. And so self-limiting beliefs, I think, is a big one. Also, I think that goes just to maybe even dovetails into that conversation earlier around budgets for creative and for advertising. The first time you throw out a 6-figure, this is going to be a 6-figure investment, just in the creative, and then you're probably going to want to spend at least that on the meta ads, right? Let's just use some real words here. Mm-hmm. A lot of brands are no, can't afford that. Mm-hmm. So there's these self-limiting beliefs and understanding how much exposure something like that could do for you.
Yeah.
And then what does that exposure translate into sales and into growth?
Yeah. That's so well put. I'm going to give my best possible, because it's one of the number one questions that we get. We get like 2 or 3 questions all the time. And one of them, and I can feel it from people, they're like, so is there a way to like test into this? Is there a way to kind of swing for a single and accidentally hit a home run? Like how it's like, that's the feeling that people are asking, is like, can I take a risk and not, or can I take a small risk and get a really, really big reward? I want to be very clear. Like, we never push people into a risk that we don't think they're well positioned to take. I mean, we truly only say yes to about 1.5 to 2% of brands we talk to. It's that small. And it's like, I shouldn't say talk to, who reach out to us, because we can't talk to everyone that reaches out. At the end of the day, certain brands are in a position, like I talk to brands all the time, where it kind of goes back to earlier in our discussion, where it's like, it freaks me out that they haven't made this type of swing or investment yet, because they're already spending, $500,000, $700,000, $1 million, $2, $3, $4 million a month in their advertising. And they're like, oh yeah, like, we never really done anything like this. And I'm like, okay, well, that, like, you have product market fit, you have story market fit, you have stuff that you can glean off of and go big off of, right? And so I'm like, for me, there's actually the opportunity cost of not figuring that out is greater than the potential of like taking a swing and missing. It's like, no. The bigger existential threat is not figuring out how to diversify your media mix and figure out how to tell your story in a compelling way beyond UGC and statics. Like, you have to do that. It's the only thing that's going to get you from where you are today to a place of not just growth, but stability in multiple channels. But the second piece of this is we do launch brands from the ground up. And every year we launch 4, 5, 6 brands. Grüns is a great example where, they went as big as possible right out of the gate. Right. And I think you'll see that, I always say, like, I'm really proud of the work that we did with and for Grüns and continue to do for them. However, a different operator would not have been as successful as Chad, because Chad had understood the math. He understood, his CAC to LTV ratio, all the things that everyone always said. Like, he truly understood it, and he understood from the get-go, I'm going to get the best partners. I'm going to do this right, and I'm going to swing hard and fast and go. And he just like kept going. I've never seen anyone move as fast and as hard as he did. And I'm like, I constantly think to myself, man, 99 out of 100 brands would have languished, and the whole thing would have been like a $10 million brand, because they would have been like, oh man, I'm still trying to get my CAC down by $10, instead of like, oh wow, our 3-month LTV is this, we should be spending infinitely, or we should go raise money to like acquire as many customers as we can, because this is working super well. And he made all the right moves. And so watching people operate like that challenges me to ask myself, am I thinking big enough about what I see out there? And so it's hard. I mean, I started this by saying, like, I get it. Like, I operate my own brand. Like, everyone wants to not take that big of a risk and get a huge reward. But like, that's just, I think about even football. It's like, there's big pass plays and then there's run plays. And like, yes, every once in a while, run play breaks through. But like, if you want to break off 40 yards, you probably need to pass the ball. And creatively, that is true as well.
Yeah, it's something, I forget where this comes from, but like the concept of like a moonshot. It's like, yeah, do the block and tackling that works, but you need to, once a quarter, once a year, try something new and weird and different. Is that a different channel? Is that completely throwing brand out the door and just doing some weird, creative concept for a campaign? Is that, we're in apparel, but we're going to try this product because it really aligns with our customer, we think, right? So like, try these moonshots. And the funny thing about them, when they fail, it doesn't really matter. Just move on, right? But when it works,
I think what you nailed there is like, take a risk that that's proportional to what you can actually withstand, but don't get scared and undercut taking the swing, big enough. I've never until recently I've heard the term moonshot marketing more and more, and the more I hear it, the more I love it, because it's just so damn true. It's like it forces you out of your comfort zone to think in a different way, and when it connects, it just can really, really be transformative.
Absolutely. Now, Jacques, if there's one thing that I forgot to ask you about today that you think would really resonate with our audience, what do we want to say to them?
It's a great question, because you've asked good questions. When I look at e-commerce, I see a game where the fundamentals haven't changed over decades, but the tactics change daily. Right. And it's like this weird, it's true of advertising too. And I think that when I see, companies and brands truly break through, it's not because they figured out, like, it wasn't like, all of a sudden there was this one ad or this one thing. It's like they thought in a quantum leap manner of like, ultimately, what I see over and over again is like, we figured out what people's why is, not our own why, but their why. And we were able to make that connection faster so that they went from seeing it to buying it quicker. And the number of times that people think about storytelling through the lens of like top of funnel versus bottom funnel, and that like somehow there's a version of advertising that doesn't convert in real time. It's like there is a version of that, and you can't do that. You can't spend that kind of money. You have to spend the kind of money that gets attention, tells your story, gets people to convert. If you're in e-commerce, that is the only game. That's the only game. And then, and so I just think about it like, same when people go, should you go in-house or agency? It's always an and, not an or. And it's like, you can tell your story and convert at the same time, and finding when you can do that. I'm telling you, I've seen it literally a dozen times now. Like I was counting how many brands have we grown by more than $50 million, and it's a dozen. And I'm like, when it works, it goes, and it doesn't go incrementally. To your point, like, it's not like, I did a couple $100,000 of creative and spent $100,000 on the media. It's like, no. I spent millions and tens of millions of dollars on the media, and it scalably grew us. And so hopefully that's helpful. I just think everyone always wants to know, like, well, how does it really work? Did it just go viral? No, it never just went viral.
No, it's a lot of customer research. It's a lot of smart people in a room brainstorming. And it's a lot of trying stuff, and then looking for those indicating factors of like, there's traction here. How do we pivot or iterate on this to get more traction?
Totally.
And more. And then next thing Dr. Squatch is at 10 million. So their goal goes from, all right, now we're at 10, let's go to 100. You know what I mean? Now we're at 100, let's go to 1 billion.
Yep. You nailed it. Yeah. And eventually it'll be 3 billion.
Yeah, with those dozen brands, though, this is a question that I thought of just hearing. With those dozen brands, did their path, like, did this trajectory in the six, like, did they look similar, or was it completely different ways to get to the same result, which was what we would all argue is a successful direct consumer brand? So
what they all shared when we're talking about those dials, beep, 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 looking at the dials, what every single one of the most successful e-commerce brands that we've worked with have is they've dialed in the offer, the story that they're telling, and the math or their understanding of how much can I truly spend to acquire. The number, we would probably have 10 more brands that we would have grown by that much if they really understood their math. The number of times that we've been talking to somebody and they're like, we need to be first purchase profitable, and they're a consumable brand, for example, and you're like, or they're like, oh no, like, we can only spend this much because our average order value is $110. And you're like, well, why don't you just bundle it with like a double thing. It's like buy one, gift one. And if 20% of people buy it, now you can spend an extra $20 in acquisition. And they go, oh, I never thought about that. They do that. And all of a sudden they can grow by $30 million. Like it really is, it's math plus storytelling plus obviously, I mean, when you say it has to be a great product, you're right. Like that's just like
it's table stakes to get to that scale level. Yeah.
It's don't pass go. But I say that to say, like, you know, on an all shade intended, Liquid IV is 75% sugar. 75% sugar. I'm like, they're selling flavored sugar packs. They're selling $1 billion worth of flavored sugar packs. No one's out there saying they're the best product. I'm like, they're not. They're flavored sugar packs. And I'm like, if they can get to $1 billion selling health through flavored sugar packs, there's not a whole lot. I'm sitting over here drinking a liquid death water, maybe just for the fun of it. But I'm like, there's nothing holding you back.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, it is good water. Don't get me wrong, but like, it's water.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacques, thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing all those amazing insights. If I'm listening to this, I want to learn more about Raindrop, potentially follow you around on the internet. Where should I go? What should I do?
I am one with the internet. You can find me everywhere. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on X. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I also have my own podcast, Marketing People Love, where I try to have meaningful conversations like these. So yeah, you can find me, unfortunately, everywhere.
Absolutely. We'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Chase.